Hey guys, so I've made it to Claytor Lake, Virginia. So last night I was at Bordentown, New Jersey, where I decided I would just go ahead and stop and spend the night. And there was some snow overnight. It did start snowing sometime in the, after I went to bed, or actually before I went to bed it started. Parking lot was still wet, but then sometime overnight it did snow upwards of about 3 more inches. So, but when I first looked out this morning after I woke up, I looked out and I saw that the parking lot looked a little frozen. It did drop below freezing. So I, went back to sleep, and by the time I got up and got around, it was above freezing. It was upwards of 40 degrees, and so parking lot was all melted, and the roads were all in pretty good shape. Now, I did encounter a problem. By the way, I made some little video clips, and I'll be playing those in just a minute, showing the parking lot and a couple of other things. But I did encounter a problem. My route was taking me on Interstate 276. So I went 95 down to 276. 276 is that's actually a turnpike extension on the New Jersey side. It's called the New Jersey Turnpike Extension. And then on the Pennsylvania side, after you cross this bridge, it's called the Pennsylvania Turnpike Extension. And it runs over and joins 76, which is the regular Pennsylvania Turnpike. Well, I got into Pennsylvania on 276, and then at U.S. Highway 13 they had the road closed, and they were routing everyone off of the turnpike. And so there was this pretty good detour, so I had to go on 13, and I followed it, and eventually, it was like massive traffic jam. It took probably 35 to 40 minutes or more to go, maybe 3 or 4 miles total, because of the, it was just all the traffic and so on and so forth. 95 south finally, and then, 676 that goes around the north side of downtown Philadelphia, and then 76 on out, and then it becomes the turnpike, and I basically bypassed the problem. Well, I found out later that there was like 100+ car pileup on that part of the Pennsylvania Turnpike, or at least the Turnpike extension, the part that goes around the north, sort of forms a north road or a north freeway that goes around the north side of Philadelphia. Philadelphia doesn't have that many freeways. Their road system is something else. But in any case, apparently, early this morning, the article I read, it suggested maybe about 7:30, or at least that's the impression that I got. A truck was going whichever, maybe westbound, I'm not sure, I'd have to read the article again, whichever way it was going. There was black ice on the interstate on 276, and a truck jackknifed, and then of course, because all these people follow each other too close, which is a very common thing, I see people do it all the time. I see truck drivers do it all the time. Stupid! Don't do that! If people want to follow each other too close, have at it. But, and if that's the case, if I'm on a busy road, I slow down and I make them all pass me. And then that way, at least I have a little bit of an advantage because they're going faster than I am. But, so in any case, these people all piled into there's a jackknife truck that was completely blocking the road, and they all kind of piled into it, and so you had this big, massive 100+ car pileup. Fortunately, at least with the article that I read, there were no serious injuries, or at least no life-threatening injuries, and so that's kind of a miracle that, you look at something like that happening in an accident, because it looked pretty bad if you saw the aerial photographs. So it took them like 7 hours to kind of clean the thing up. So, but in any case, I made it to Lancaster, picked my load up, and then came back through New Kingston, where our company yard is. I had to swap fuel cards because we're switching from ComData to EFS because it's like 30% cheaper, which is, that's, if it's 30%, 30%'s a lot. With the volume of stuff we're doing through these fuel cards, 30% is quite a bit of savings, so I can understand what they've been in the process of switching now for, I don't know, probably a couple of months anyway that I know of. So I'm switched to the EFS, and I also had to get fuel, so I got that taken care of, and then so now I've made it to Claytor Lake, Virginia, and that's where I'm spending the night. I've got roughly 400 more miles to go before I make it to Kennesaw, Georgia, where the load drops, and so there is supposed to maybe be some snow here overnight, and it's going to dip below freezing and then maybe come back up above freezing before, I don't know. So right now the temperatures, it's like 36 or 37 degrees, and this truck stop, the parking lot there is a bunch of slushy snow in the parking lot. Interstate 81's in great shape right now. I did see, I'm assuming that it was snowing last night, but I did see several vehicles, trucks. I saw one in the median. I saw, like one off on the side. Maybe it was broke down. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Then there was this one that was off in a ditch, kind of laying over. Plus some other ones. So there, and one that was overturned in the median. So there's a number of vehicles, and of course they just kind of wait until the snow melts before they can kind of they go through and clean all that up. But the road itself is in really good shape. They've got it all cleaned up. So at least for now. So I'll leave here tomorrow. I'm not in that big of a hurry. It's a drop and hook load. So I'll just leave here kind of later in the morning and call it good. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and show the clips that I have that I recorded with the phone. They're very brief clips. There's either I think there's 2 or 3 of them, and so I'll be right back. Now it's Friday morning, and it did snow overnight. I'm about to leave this Petro truck stop at Bordentown, New Jersey, but you can see that it did in fact snow, although now the temperature's above freezing, and I think things are melting. So here I am at Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I know that reefer unit there is going to be pretty noisy. You can see that the place where I'm loading at, this warehouse where I'm going to pick my load up at, they've got their snow sort of all shoved out of the way, and you can tell that it's actually melting fairly good. Right here I'm in New Kingston, Pennsylvania, and I'm filling the truck up with fuel. And so you can see that even though it's 43 degrees and the sun's been out pretty much all day, there's still lots of heavy wet snow that is yet to melt. If we look off in the distance over there, we can see some large piles where they've kind of shoved it out of the way. So those were the clips that I recorded, and with me doing this with the phone, it makes it very easy. There's a temptation, because I've been doing the podcasting and everything. I've been doing that for a long time, and I've played with video for a long time. There's a temptation to try to document every little thing, and I suppose there's people. If there are drivers that want to do that, I know there are, because I've seen them on YouTube, want to do that. If you've got the motivation to do that, have at it. I don't, that's not really why I want to do this. I'll talk about what I'm doing, but I don't really necessarily want to, show every little detail, because to me that's not why I'm doing this. In part I'm doing this, and it's certainly the same way with the podcast. I've personally gotten a lot out of the audio podcast, and I think that the same thing is going to apply with this video. It's vlog or vlog or whatever you want to call it. I think the same thing is going to apply. So, but I can carry the phone. I had a friend suggest, well, you've got your iPad. You got your iPad Air. Why don't you just use it? You could use it to record the videos. Well, yeah, I could. I could be doing that right now. But the phone works just as, quite frankly, the phone works just as well as this does, as this would. And it's all on one device, and this phone can just easily slip in my pocket. And so if I want to shoot some video, it's incredibly easy to do so. And it's all right there, all on one device, and that I've been playing with video for a long time, and that's a big deal, because once you start plugging things in and trying to transfer things over, and even if you're not doing any editing, but you still have to assemble it, then you have to worry about, well, sometimes some of those programs want to import the files. They can't work with the file format directly, and it turns into a nightmare on a computer. Of course, a computer's more powerful. You can do some more sophisticated things, but on the other hand, this is more of a quick and dirty thing, but I can do what I want to do, achieve the results that I want to achieve, and do it in relatively short order. So, but I may experiment at some point with doing the video on the iPad, or at least recording some of the video, because it records in the same file format. It's an MP4, as far as I know. And so, anyway, what I wanted to talk about, a lot of people love being upset. And it's easy to believe that being upset is a protection, some sort of a protection. You think that getting upset with, let's say someone does you wrong, and there's this natural tendency to think, well, and of course we're playing God in our own mind when we do it, but there's this natural tendency to think, well, I'm going to protect myself, and I'm somehow, in my mind, if I hurl the mental thunderbolts and sort of wish these people dead in my mind, that as if I'm God, as if my thoughts could strike these people dead, that's a protection. And of course, we can't. We have no power. We don't have that power. And in fact, what happens, when you get upset, and I'm talking about resentment-style upset, and the best way, I just described it, you're hurling the mental thunderbolts at people, and that's not the same thing to say, there are natural emotions, and you can get mad, and so on and so forth, but if resentment accompanies it, if resentment is whatever resentment is, it's just, you can think of it as a little tiny apex of a triangle. It's not really necessarily an emotion. You can think of it, as you have to it's kind of, you have to come to the understanding of what it is yourself, and I just described what it was, or I can describe around it, sort of like hurling the mental thunderbolt, as if you were God, you could strike someone dead. That can give you an idea of what it is, but you're going to have to understand what, you come to that understanding yourself. But that's not a protection. It's exactly the opposite, because that makes you suggestible. And the mechanics of that, the reason it makes you suggestible is because it puts you at odds with your God-given identity. It puts you at odds with that. All of a sudden it makes that an enemy, and then that God-given identity, you begin to perceive that as a conscience. It's reminding you of what you've fallen away from. Hey, you're wrong. You've done that wrong, and it reminds you. It's there reminding you, nagging you that you've done wrong. And so then the natural tendency is to think, well, I can't. The wrong side of your ego thinks, I can't be wrong. That feels so good. I get this split-second feeling that I'm really God and I'm striking people dead. So therefore, it has to be right. And so this conscience is just, society programmed it or whatever. And it's, I just want rid of it, and so I'm going to blast it away, and I'll, and you end up running into the arms of other people, and then you have a, kind of an I'm okay, you're okay thing going on, where you all kind of, you end up finding friends, and you sort of all suck on each other's slimy egos, and it ends up, creating this snowball effect where, it starts out with this little tiny thing, and it ends up becoming worse, worse and worse and worse as you try to get away from that conscience. It becomes bigger and bigger and badder, and it, and you keep running away from it that much more. So, but of course, what you have to do is learn how to stop and allow it to catch up with you, and that can be a painful thing, but that's really what you have to do. And if you can really do that, if you can really allow that thing to catch up with you, then it only happens once, and you feel the pain of it once, and then it's over, it's gone, and then it becomes your friend, and this is not an instant process. It takes a while. It can take years. So, but it's worthwhile, because once you're able to do that, once you're able to become friends with that conscience, then you don't want to. You don't want to do anything to separate yourself from it. And that sin really, sin, you hear the word sin, and it's got this, people have this knee-jerk reaction. It really means missing the mark. It means not doing what you're supposed to do. And it's all about, this is all about identity. Where does your identity come from? As a human being, where does your identity come from? So, but people think, well, I have to be upset or I can't function. I go into fast food places all the time, and it's an excellent example, because there are some times I go into a fast food place, and whoever the manager is will just really get people pissed off. They get the employees pissed off, and all of a sudden, boy, they've all got all kinds of energy, and they hurry, and they really get the stuff done. They're operating out of the wrong kind of energy. And if you operate out of that kind of energy, it's destructive to you, it's destructive to your body, it's destructive to your character, it's destructive to your friends and your family, the people around you. If you're operating out of that kind of energy, you become worse, and you make the people around you miserable, and you make them worse. And so energy, getting energy from being upset, and I'm talking about resentment-style upset, getting energy from that really is slavery. You become enslaved to whoever controls that, whoever presses your button. That's, we have a vocabulary for this. People call it pressing people's buttons. Oh, I know how to press his button, or she knows how to press my button, so on and so forth. Or the kids know how to press your button. Or your buttons, because people have multiple buttons. As they go along and they become worse, they have more and more buttons. Just an endless supply of them. So, the cure for the problem is to learn how to not be upset. And I'll be talking about this in future podcasts, but people think that being upset is protection, and it's exactly the opposite. It makes you suggestible. The more upset you are, the more suggestible you are. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. all who sin are slaves, and resentment is the sin. And then, of course, people are, the next thing is to be proud of the resentment. And you have pride marches and so on and so forth. And that's kind of the dynamic behind that. Be proud that you killed your baby, so on and so forth. So we're going to have a march, Kill Your Baby Pride March. So, but, and this idea of resentment, it actually causes, everything that happens, every thought that you have, everything that happens, there is something that physically goes on in your brain. And you have they've got various things, these new technologies, this functional MRI, it's called fMRI, and they can sort of see what's going on using that technology and some other ones. They can actually see what's going on to a certain extent in a living brain, and they can take pictures in various ways, and people that are actually schizophrenic, people that are really psychotic, so on and so forth, certain patterns show up. And, of course, there's all kinds of research into this area that's ongoing, and these things do show up. And so everything that you do, every bad attitude that you have affects your brain. And I believe that at some point you can actually physically damage your brain. They say, well, depression is, there's a chemical imbalance. Well, of course it's a chemical imbalance, but why is it imbalanced? Did the chemical imbalance just arbitrarily happen? No. I contend that depression is nothing but resentment that doesn't have anywhere to go. You don't have anybody else to take it out on or project it onto, and it comes back on you. And if you can, that's another thing. If you can really get rid of resentment, you never have to worry about becoming depressed. You really don't. But so anyway, probably better be bringing this to a close. See what I'm looking at. I made some notes here. So I got my notes just in case. Try to keep this concise. Anyhow, from Claytor Lake, Virginia. We'll catch you later.